Welcome to the Axon introduction. We will be talking about the new Axon Thinking Analytics platform available with Herman International. And I'd like to go through a couple of little things, and we'll talk about what we're going to do today through this video. We'll do a general introduction. I did want to talk to you about the enhanced security and privacy of the Axon system. So when a person is invited to complete an assessment through Axon, we will now be asking them to opt in when they sign in. They will log in and create their own username and password, and that username and password will allow them to continue to log in to the Axon system, and it will also allow them to use additional applications such as the HPDI app, so they'll be able to use that information and not have to come up with a new username or keep track of one that's been assigned to them. So we'll start with an overview of the training. We're going to go through creating and sending invitations, creating groups, and generating reports. And those are the main things that we want to make sure you understand how to do in the Axon system. The Axon features include ways to send the invitation both within the Axon system or through your own email system. If you use the Axon system to send invitations and ask people to complete assessments, that allows you to also have an automatic reminder and access to easy manual reminders so that you can continue to follow up with your thinkers, as we call them, and encourage them to complete the assessment. There is an easy way to track the number of assessments that you've used. There are easy ways to group all different kinds of assessments, all different types of groups together in different sizes, and a person can be in as many different groups as you see fit and that work for you in your own internal processing. There is a power search capability within Axon, so you'll be happy to see that. There is quick and easy reporting, and as we said earlier, there's access to the HPDI app given to the thinker when the practitioner is ready for them to be able to see their results, and not before. So we also have some new reporting capabilities that are coming out, and this system is one that we will continue to build and improve on. And we have new assessments that are coming out, so make sure and ask your account manager about those new assessments. We do have several translation languages available now: English, Finnish, French, German, and International English. And within the time that you watch this video, Spanish and Danish will likely have been added. Chinese, both in the traditional and simplified, will have been added very soon. Danish and Dutch and Swedish will be added, and Japanese and Korean will be added later on, but we'll continue to add translations for the HPDI assessment and resulting products as we go along. We do data migrate, so we send the data that you have collected, if you've collected in the HDMS, our previous system. That data will be available in the Axon system. It does only bring over the assessment information, so a user of the Axon system still has to create a user account and a password in order to access information. So you will have access to your assessments, but if the thinker wants to have access to information like the app and they want to use a new username and password, they'll need to create a user account. So we're about ready to get into training. We're going to look at how to create an invitation and how to send invitations through Axon, and how to send invitations through your own email system, how to edit an invitation, how to view the lists of invitations and what each column means, and then we're going to look at completed assessments and how to report on those, and how to edit groups and run reports on those groups. So you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, this is the URL that you'll often use to log into Axon. It is the axon.hermansolutions.net URL, and we're ready to jump over to Chrome as our browser. Axon is set up so that it will work with multiple types of browsers, so you should be able to use practically any type browser you want to. You will want to enable pop-ups when you select the Axon URL and your browser. You'll want to make sure that the browser understands that you will be using pop-ups for this particular URL. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So I already have created my username and password. You should have received an email that says you need to reset your password, and that's actually going to give you the opportunity to set it for the first time. And we'll go ahead and click on Login. And the first thing we're going to do is just take a look at the opening page. So I will see quickly that I have a current license, and that tells me what products I have purchased, if there is an expiration date, if there is a number of purchased seats, and how many seats are available of the ones that I have purchased. I also see a quick announcements here that indicates that there has been an update. So on January 30th, we added a new step in creating the invitation. Anytime we make updates to the system, we'll alert you to that in this announcements page. So you'll want to take a quick look as you log in to see if anything has changed. I have my user set up here so I could select a different license if I have more than one. I have my settings page, and then I have a logout, and then over on the left hand side I have an assessment management tab, and this is where you're going to likely land most of the time to begin whatever process you're going to start with. I also have a help menu, and this we'll just click on quickly. This will include videos like the one that we're recording today, where you can see individual steps in the process, like creating an invitation or running a report. We're going to go back to the Assessment Management tab, and we're going to start with invitations. So as we said, an invitation can be created so that it is for an internal Axon email, or you can create one that you're going to send out from your own email system. Some corporations and large organizations will have a very restrictive email system, and so they will want to send emails through their own email system and not through an outside system like Axon. There is a great benefit to being able to send that invitation from Axon because you have the option of automatic and manual reminders. So we'll look at that in just a moment. I'm going to click on New Invitation, and that opens up a screen. This part of the process you will do regardless of whether you're sending it through the Axon system or through your own email system. We'll give this invitation a name because there will be a list of invitations, and we want to make sure that we can pick this invitation out of a crowd. So we're going to call this a communication session. And I'll give it a date so that I make sure that even if I do several communication sessions, I know which one this one is referring to. So we're going to call this one March 2017. I can then type in email addresses if I want to send it through the Axon system, or I can copy and paste. So I'm going to type in one email address, and I'll show you that right below that, each time an email address is added, it calculates that as a seat that would be required for that email address or for that person. And a seat is one spot for the product or products that you're going to invite this person to complete, whether that's an assessment, an e-learning, or other options. So you can, as I said, type in the email address, or you can copy and paste from an Excel sheet or another type of list that you have. It will continue to count those email addresses. If you are going to send this through your own email system, there's no need to put in the email addresses. You would just want to include the number of seats that you need for the people that you're going to invite. We have a little memo section here so you can keep track of additional information if you want to about this invitation. You might want to include an invoice number or a purchase order number if you use that as part of your process. Next, we're going to choose the type of diagnostic or assessment that we're going to use. Right now, with the license that I have and the purchasing that I've done in advance, I only have the HPDI available to me, or I have none, and there is a reason that you might want to select none. You could say, I don't want to invite anyone to complete an assessment because they've already completed one, but I need them to go back through an e-learning session. So that's why the none option is there. We're going to select HPDI, and you'll notice that a little magic happens while we're doing that, and it opens up an additional screen that says here are insight and application products that can be made available to your thinker when you invite them to complete the HPDI. So I have the fundamentals e-learning project that I could do, or I could do interactive, which is the preference island e-learning session, or I could give them access to the app. And I have a couple of ways of doing that. I can say right away, yes, I want this person to get the app, but my session's not until March, so I don't want them to have access to the app and subsequently their results until my session. So I'm going to say that I'm going to give them access to the app on March the 9th. Below that is the section where I indicate the type of message that I want to send them. So again, if I'm sending this through the Axon system, I want to include a little context about why this person is being invited. So I'm going to just type in this section, this is why, and I explain to the person why they're being invited to complete this assessment. And then I give them a deadline date. So if my session, for example, is on March the 9th, I am going to ask that everyone complete their assessment by March the 1st. And that way I've got some time to put things together and get my my program put together the way I need to have it. And then I'm going to tell them that I want to send out an automatic reminder 3 days before the deadline. So on February 26th, I would have an automatic reminder that goes out only to those people who have not completed their assessment. So if they've completed, the Axon system says, I don't need to remind you because you've already completed the assessment. I can select this box and get a message each time a person completes the assessment if I want that, or I can just plan on going back into Axon and logging in and reviewing who has completed. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And then this last section is if you want to give this invitation in a different owner, so you no longer want to be the owner, you want to allow someone else to take responsibility for this invitation, you can type in that email address here. It does need to be a person who's already set up in the Axon system. This is not often used, but it is a way for you to relinquish that ownership. If you are going out on leave or something like that, you might want someone else to be able to follow up. We're going to click Create Invitation. The next screen that pops up is a confirmation page. So it says, is this really what you wanted? Because once you've selected the type of diagnostic and the type of insight and application products that you've chosen, this will deduct that seat from your license or from what you've already purchased. And you'll see here that it gives you a new count. So I had 100 seats available for HPDIs. Now I have 99. So I can go back and say, no, that's not what I wanted. That's not the products that I was looking for. Or I'm going to go ahead and click Confirm and say, yes, that's exactly what I needed. And we haven't sent the invitation yet, so it gives us an opportunity to review the invitation and make sure that we said what we needed to say. and that we invited the right number of people. So far I've invited one person. I am going to click on preview the invitation, and I see quickly that my "this is why" context message is right here, and then it says below that Dorothy Roche has invited you to participate in the HPDI, and it gives some information to every thinker to make sure that they are aware that things like this is not a test, that the survey measures preference, not skills. Those are important things for every thinker to know. It also gives a little extra bullet that says, please be sure to ask your practitioner about getting access to the app, because we had selected in our invitation process that this person would get access to the app on that particular date. And then finally there's an instructions section that allows for the thinker to click on the link, and you'll notice that's it. The link includes all of the information that that person needs to get to the right group, to get to your data, and to access this one seat in this invitation. And then finally you can select a language to send this invitation out in the various languages that are available. If you don't select a language, it will default to US English. We're going to click send, and that invitation has now gone out, and in my license I have deducted one seat, and it will show you a little banner on every page as you go through the process that indicates if that message or what you've done has been successful. So a green bar here says invitations were sent to 0 new users and 1 existing user. So you'll know really quickly if you've invited someone, even just by entering their email address, this is someone who's already a user in the Axon system. Okay, so now we've created our invitation, and we'll for time's sake pretend that that person has already completed the assessment, and we're ready to run reports. So the first thing we'll do is look at individual assessments, and the list that shows up shows us the different invitations that have gone out, or invitations that have been responded to, and the assessments that are in the system. And you'll notice quickly that we have a first name, last name, email address, a company list name, and then the type of survey. And I indicated before we do have some new surveys that are coming out. Completed is this person finished with the entire survey, yes or no, and then if they are completed, what date they completed on. It will let you know if this is migrated data, so it was pulled in from the old system. It gives you a chance to click on any details. You can do a quick view, and I'll just click on that for this person, and I see really quickly that this person has that profile. That gives me an indication of, yes, that's the one that I wanted. And we can select those completed assessments here and just click the box. I can scroll down to the bottom of the page, and I will see a couple of options. First, I have the type of report that I want to run and the language, so I can select the language and then select the type of report. So if I've got an individual, I might want to run the individual, all 5 pages of the HPDI report, and I click on Generate Report. And you'll notice that it opens a new tab. So this new tab is the actual report for that person. I'll scroll down real quickly so you can see it's page after page of that person's profile, and if there are multiple people in the group that you've selected, those will continue to come out. But it opens in that new tab so that I could come back and say, okay, I ran the HPDI individual reports, now I want a pair report. So I can start to type in the word pair, and it will show me all of the instances of that particular string of text that I've entered, and I'll go ahead and select pair report without the text because I'm going to go through that report with that person and generate the report. Now you'll remember when we first started I said that you'll want to make sure that you enable pop-ups, and that is because when I click Generate Report, it pops up in a new tab. Without pop-ups enabled, that will not pop up. So you'll want to make sure that if you click on a report and nothing seems to be happening on your screen, that's likely why, and you'll need to enable pop-ups. The other option that I have as I've selected these completed assessments is I can actually create a group from that selection. So if I want to run a certain number of reports, but I know that I'm going to come back later and run some additional reports based on the group that I've created, I can either add these assessments to a group that's already in place, or I can create a brand new group. Now, it's important to remember that when you're creating groups, those names will show up in a long list of groups that you have created. So you'll want to create a group name that stands out in the crowd and you know which one that you're looking for. Okay, so it's real easy to just select the different types of, not types, but the different assessments that you want to use for your reporting. Check the box next to them and scroll down and either run the report or create a new group. Now, one of the things that we mentioned earlier was a powerful search engine, and that is over on the right hand side of your screen. So you'll have search filters for the types of surveys. So we want to make sure that when you're running reports, you're not trying to run an HPDI report using a new assessment called the Team Dashboard, for example. So you can select what type of survey you want to search for. You can use the first name, last name, the group, and when you create an invitation, that automatically creates a group. So you'll remember when I said I wanted the communication session for March 2017, that's actually going to be a group now, and I can start to type in communication, and there's my communication session for March 2017. So it already creates a group for me. Or I can type in as many different email addresses for several people and find all of them at one time. So if you have a list of email addresses from an Excel sheet, you can copy and paste those into this search engine box and you can find multiple people at the same time. You can search by company, and we even have different types of data roles, so your data can be set up into a hierarchy or almost like an organizational chart of data. So you might want to search for a particular area of your data. You can search for whether this survey was completed and whether the survey was migrated. So there are lots of different ways to find the assessments that you're looking for. Okay. As we mentioned, you can go to Assessment Groups under your Management tab, and you can look for groups that have already been created. And again, if we click on the updated at, we'll sort this list by date, and you'll see quickly that my communication session March 2017 already has a group created for it, but it tells me very quickly that 0 of 0 assessments have been completed. So that's not one that I would want to use for reporting, but this page works identically as to the page that we looked at a moment ago. So I check the box next to the group, I scroll down, and I can see the types of reports that I want to run and the language I want to use. So you can also sort or search on this particular page by the name of the group, by what part of your data organization chart it belongs to. And again, we noticed that memo when we created the group or the invitation, that memo line, if it's a purchase order that you're looking for, another way for that information to be used so that you can find things quickly. Lastly, we're going to look at run reports. So this is a way for you to kind of jump straight into running a report instead of going to find the assessment or the assessment group. You can start with the report and say, I want to run a individual 5 pages report for an HPDI. So I'm going to choose that report, and then I'm going to find the people that I want that report to be run on. So we'll start typing in, and I'll just type in the first name. And so I know that I'm looking for Stacy, and you see that it starts to find those people who fit this search criteria. And you can search by first name, last name, email address, or the group. So if you know that all the assessments are in a particular group, you can start to search by the group name. I just want this one person, so I click on the person's little indicator next to them, and now I have selected that person. But then I remember, oh no, I need to do a report for Shauna too, so I'll go ahead and grab that one while I'm here, and I can select that person. Now I have people selected in the report section, and I can either run my report, just click on the button here, or I can also save this selection as a new group. So I have ways of using this, going straight to the run reports and grab the people that I want to report on and either run the report, or I can save them as a group to report on later. Okay. We're going to bounce right back over to our PowerPoint and double check and make sure that we've gone through how to create an invitation, how to send invitations, and yes, we need to look at one additional thing. So I'm going to bounce back over, and we're going to look at the list of invitations. Now, as you can imagine, when we're doing this kind of training, we're doing lots of different testing and things like that. So I have several invitations listed that have been sent out, and I can see the name. So you'll remember we talked about how the name is important. You want to be able to pick it out from a list. This is that list. Then I can see the number of seats, how many individual thinkers are going to be invited, and then I have a continuum of where those seats or those thinkers fall in this process. I can't have unassigned seats, so I haven't decided who's going to use that invitation yet. Then they move to assigned. I've decided who they are, but I haven't done anything beyond that. Then I have invited those people, so they've actually received an invitation because I sent it out. Now if they click on that invitation and accept it, they will fall into this category of accepted the invitation. And then finally I can see that when they have completed the assessment, that it indicates that they have consumed that seat. So you'll see here this invitation, I had 3 seats, and I have 3 different people along the process. So I have one that has been invited, but they haven't clicked on the invitation yet, so they haven't accepted it. One has accepted the invitation, but they haven't consumed the survey and actually completed it. And then I have one person who did complete the survey, and that seat is consumed. So you can see quickly, as you also use your search filter, you can find the invitation that you're looking for using either name, the message text that you included, the deadline date that you used, different ways of finding that invitation, or just scanning down the list, and then you can quickly see where those invitations are in your process. Okay, so all of that shows us how to use the invitation, but the one thing that we didn't look at is, what if I want to send the invitation through my email system? I know you were waiting for me to get back to that. So we are going to start a new invitation. Okay. And we're going to go through this pretty quickly because we've already shown you much of this, but I would create a name. Okay. I don't put in any email addresses because I'm going to put those in my email system, but I'm going to invite 10 people to complete the assessment. So I put in that I need 10 seats, and then I'm not going to use a memo, but I know that I'm going to invite them to complete the HPDI, and I want them to do the fundamentals e-learning, and once they're finished I want them to have access to the app. And this class is going to be on the 28th of February, so I want them to have app access on the 28th of February. I don't need to put any message text in because I'm sending this through my email system, but the system does require, and you'll notice that little asterisk, that I give it a deadline date. So if my session is on the 28th, I'm going to say the deadline is the 26th. Now that's for me to remember, but it's also for Axon to remember at a later point. And then I'm going to say, it's a required field that you say how many days before the deadline do you send a reminder. Now the reminder will not go out of Axon. That's for you to mark your calendar. And then finally we will create the invitation. Okay, I indicate that yes, I wanted the HBDI, fundamentals, and the app, so I can confirm this invitation. And then I want to scroll down to the section that says I want to invite thinkers to complete an assessment. I'll send my own invitation. So I'm going to open that little box, and I have the option of enabling the registration by URL. I click on that, and I'm going to see two options. One is that long URL that I can copy and paste into my email that I'm going to send out, or you have the option of sending out a shorter URL, but it includes a web key. So you would want to include all of this information either here or the long URL in your invitation you send out from your email system. Now this of course doesn't include the deadline date, it doesn't include the information about why they're completing or that the assessment is a validated assessment. All of that is going to be in your email, so you want to make sure that you include that information for your thinkers, and then include this URL. Now remember that we said we wanted 10 seats in this invitation. It indicates so right here, and that means that this URL down below, either this one or this one, can only be used 10 times. If an 11th person tries to use that URL and 10 people have already completed the assessment, that 11th person would be warned that this invitation is already full and they should contact the person who they got the invitation from. Now if you've got friends who are sharing emails and sending out this invitation and says this was the greatest thing, you've got to try it, and they send that URL along, that person can't use that invitation if the rest of those seats have already been used up. The advantage to sending it through the Axon system is that Axon knows exactly who those people are, and it expects that the person responding to the invitation is the one who received that email. So when you send an invitation through your own system, Axon doesn't know who those people are until they have created a user account. So there's not a way to prevent Susie from sharing her invitation with her best friend who has nothing to do with the invitation you wanted. There's nothing to prevent that. However, if you send the invitation through the Axon system, it would prevent that because it doesn't know who Susie shared that invitation with. So lots of pluses and minuses to the different ways that you can send an invitation, but that is how you send one if you want to send it through your email system. And that is a really quick but simple overview of the different types of things that you can do in Axon. There are ways to create new groups. So as we said, you can have as many people in a group and as many different groups as you want. So you can go to assessment groups and create a new group. You can create new invitations. Most new items that you want to create are going to be on the right hand side, and they'll have a button, and you can create a new group, tell the system who should be in that group, and you're off and running, and then you can run reports against that group if you want. So lots of different ways to manage your data, and lots of ways of inviting people to complete the assessment. Hope that was helpful for you, and if you have any additional questions, there is the help menu, and there is also a little contact us tab at the bottom of your screen that will allow you to send in a help request or to send in an enhancement request if you have things that you think might help using the system. And it's a way for you to reach out to your service provider within Herman International. So hope that helps, and hope you enjoy the Axon system. Look for new and improved tidbits along the way as we help this system to grow.